Hello everybody, welcome to Steven's Fight Show, and in this video we're going to be talking about Devin Haney versus George Kambosos. Now Devin Haney versus George Kambosos happened about a week ago, and although it wasn't considered an entertaining fight for the fans, it was an absolute boxing masterclass by the young prodigy Devin Haney. And although the fight wasn't made for people who are tuning in just to see knockouts and fighters just throwing big bombs at each other, people who love to see pure boxing will appreciate this fight in many ways because of Devin Haney. I felt like this fight was long overdue. I felt like an undisputed fight for the lightweight division has been overdue for a long time. I felt like for a while it should have been Lomachenko versus Devin Haney, and recently it should have been Teofimo versus Devin Haney, but now we've got George Kambosos versus Devin Haney, and Devin Haney got the job done. So in this video I want to talk about Devin Haney's game plan, the lead up to the fight, and what's next for the dream Devin Haney. So let's get into it. So to start it off first, I want to talk about the pre-fight talk. Now leading up to this fight, both fighters didn't really have any hatred or animosity towards each other. I mean, when George Kambosos got a good win against Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney went to Twitter and told George Kambosos, "Let's do it one time for all the belts." And Kambosos, without hesitation, agreed for an undisputed title match. However, during the process of making that fight, I'm not completely sure what happened, but the fight kind of fell through and George Kambosos had his sights set on Lomachenko, but obviously Lomachenko can't fight because he's in Ukraine. So thus, the only person that was really worthy of getting an undisputed title fight with Kambosos was Devin Haney. Now, as the fight was scheduled, both sides were throwing a lot of shots at each other. The press conferences were crazy, the online trash talk began to happen, and both sides started to begin to really impose their trash talk to really sell this fight. Devin Haney was calling Kambosos an actor, and Kambosos was calling Devin Haney a rat, and both men were taking digs at each other to try to get in each other's head to try to have an upper hand during the fight. However, my opinion on the lead up to the entire thing, I felt like George Kambosos' character was kind of a bit forced. And the reason I believe that is because the fight was in Melbourne, Australia, which is Kambosos' hometown. So I felt like in order for Kambosos to feel like he is the man, the A-side, the champ, I felt like he put on a character to really show that he was the man. During press conferences, during interviews, he was talking too much about everything that he went through and everything that he had to sacrifice to become champ, which is nice, but it does look like his focus was strayed away from the fight itself. Whereas I felt like Devin Haney was a lot more comfortable, was a lot more calm and composed. Every single answer, he was answering it in a simple way and nothing was really complicated with it. Devin Haney looked normal. He looked like the Devin Haney from previous press conferences where he's just simply just there to let people know that he's coming to fight and he means business. And that's what I felt like from Devin Haney. Kambosos, on the other hand, also missed weight, which was very surprising to me because he's not really a big lightweight. I think he walks around 150, 160. So for him to come in, I think it was 135.6 maybe? Yeah, he came in about 0.6, 0.4, 0.5, something like that over the limit. So he had 2 hours to make the weight, but eventually he made the weight and a title fight was set. And during the weigh-in, the reporters were asking him why he missed weight, and he was trying to say that he did it on purpose, which, I mean, let's be honest, I think we can all take off our cap and give it to Kambosos because
we know damn well that that was cap.
But anyways, let's get into the fight. So starting off the fight early, we're going to talk about Devin Haney. Devin Haney started to use the jab early in the fight to maintain his distance and keep Kambosos at bay. Devin Haney was extremely brilliant at doing this. He would constantly pump the jab, he would always make sure to throw multiple jabs, and he would also change the rhythm and the level of the jab. He wouldn't just throw straight jabs to the face. He wouldn't throw one jab. He would change the level. He would throw it from his hip. He would throw it from his face. He would throw it to the body, keeping Kambosos guessing and not allowing Kambosos to just blatantly step forward. And eventually, when the jab was working, Devin was able to start putting some right hands behind the jab, landing a few 1-2s, a couple right hands here and there, and a couple rights to the body as well. Devin's jab essentially acted like offense and defense. He was able to keep Kambosos on the outside the entire fight and never really allow Kambosos to really get going. And when the jab is starting to frustrate Kambosos, that's when he's able to really string his punches together and get off a few combinations. And we got to talk about defensively as well. I thought defensively, Devin was very sharp as usual. He didn't really get hit with a big shot throughout the entire fight, which I felt like a lot of people were anticipating Kambosos to really land a big shot on Devin Haney. Although Devin Haney is very quick and he has great upper body movement, In his last 2 fights against Jorge Linares and Jojo Diaz, he's had moments during the fight where he has gotten caught with the big shot. And although he didn't get dropped by any of those punches, the way he responded to getting caught with those punches was what raised concerns for a lot of people. However, during this fight, Devin made sure to come in almost perfect to not really get hit with the big shot by Kambosos. Whenever Kambosos had a bit of time to just step in and close the distance, Devin would evade the punch, but he would not stay in one position. He would not stay in the same place. He would use his footwork to step back, pivot out, and create a better angle for him to either counter or step back out of range. And he was never really in front of Kambosos for too long. He was sticking the jab, he was stepping out of range, he was pivoting, trying to find openings for counter shots, and he never let Kambosos get a chance to really scrap against him. Because you already know Kambosos, if you watched his fight against Teofimo, he was not scared to exchange with Teofimo at all. And in most of those exchanges, he would win against Teofimo. So Devin did a great job to neglect that and not allow Kambosos to really get into his rhythm and start landing shots. I felt like Devin could have done a bit more to get Kambosos out of there, because I felt like through 5 to 6 to 7 rounds, Devin was up on the scorecards convincingly. So I feel like if you're up on the scorecards of that wide of a margin, then I feel like you should try and go for the finish. Now, I'm not saying Devin Haney should try and chase a finish, right? But I feel like he should go for the finish. Going for the finish and chasing a finish are 2 different things. I felt like Devin should have sat down on his shots a bit more, start throwing a bit more combinations, put the pressure on Kambosos, and try to overwhelm him to get him out of there. But regardless, Devin Haney, in my opinion, had an almost perfect night. He did get hit with a few shots, but nothing really significant. And overall, it was a great fight plan for Devin Haney. Now let's talk about George Kambosos. George Kambosos started the fight off slow and never really had an answer for the jab. Anytime Devin would hit Kambosos with the jab, it looked like Kambosos always had to reset. It looked like the jab threw Kambosos off completely to the point where he never really knew what he had to do in there. Kambosos rarely got inside to work his combinations due to Devin's footwork and clinching. Now, it wasn't excessive clinching by Devin. It was in positions where Devin was able to avoid punches and really tie Kambosos up when Kambosos was starting to catch a rhythm. And it must have been very frustrating for Kambosos because the ref was not on Kambosos' side at all, because he really never let both fighters work in the clinch. As soon as both fighters would get tied up, he would immediately separate both of them. Since Kambosos couldn't get past the jab, he was not really able to work the body as much as he should have. When you're fighting a guy like Devin Haney who's really slippery and really elusive, the most important thing is to attack the body. When you have a moving target like the head, you might not be able to land accurately with your shots against the head, but the body is still there to be hit. And I felt like George Kambosos didn't really look at the body as the primary target. Every single time he was able to get inside, it looked like he was just headhunting. He never really thought about punching the body at all. I also felt like there were few feints from Kambosos to draw out reactions from Devin. I felt like if Kambosos feinted a lot more, he would have been able to draw Devin out a bit more, maybe get him in positions, get his head in positions where he wants to, and then come up with different combinations. And also, the combinations that Kambosos threw were very repetitive or only 2-punch combinations. A lot of times it would always just be a left hook right hand or a right hand left hook, 2 big punches to try to get Devin out of there. And it felt like as the fight went on, Kambosos was trying to find a one-shot kill. As the fight got closer to the end, Kambosos tried to turn up the pace towards the end of the fight, but it wasn't enough. When Kambosos decided it was time to go, it was already too little too late. So let's talk about what's next for Devin Haney. There is a rematch clause for both fighters that is set to take place back in Australia again. However, even though it's in the contract, I don't believe a rematch should happen between the two of them. The reason for that is because Devin won so convincingly to the point where it looked like he completely shut Kambosos down. It looked like it was a fight between a man and a child. I mean, it was not a fight where fans were hyped. It wasn't a fight where people thought it was competitive. It was simply just a one-sided beatdown for Devin Haney. So I feel like if one loses like that, I don't think they should get a rematch immediately like that. In my opinion, I don't think Kambosos can really do much more to really regain his titles again. Kambosos' trainer also says he knows how Kambosos can win in the rematch. I believe Kambosos has a chance to win in the rematch, but I don't think he can pull it off. For him to neutralize Devin's jab, it can be done in 2 ways. Either 1, throwing with him, or 2, timing your jab with his jab. But even then, that's also hard because Devin, he's very defensively aware. So it's not going to be easy to do that. And I want to go back to the topic about Devin being the best lightweight in the world right now. I think he's better than a lot of the top dogs in the lightweight division right now. I believe he's better than Lomachenko, he's better than Tank Davis, he's better than Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos, and Ryan Garcia. However, I believe the next lightweight that should be in line to fight Devin for the undisputed lightweight championship is Lomachenko or Tank. Lomachenko, although he suffered a defeat against Teofimo, I think he has done well to respond to that loss with his win against Richard Comey and Nakatani. And although those two guys aren't really considered top contenders in the division, the way he was able to win in such a dominant fashion, I believe he is worthy enough to beat Devin Haney. I also believe Tank deserves a shot as well. Tank, in my opinion, looked good in his last fight. Although he may have gave some rounds away to Rolando Romero, he scored a devastating knockout that raised a lot of eyebrows in the boxing world. Tank is also one of the most technical lightweights in the division, and although a lot of people wouldn't really favor him in a fight against Devin, but one thing you can't count out about Tank is his punching power. To be his size, to be able to generate as much power as he can while moving backwards, while moving forward, is absolutely phenomenal. And there's a chance that if he catches Devin, the fight could change. The puncher's chance definitely goes to Tank. And that is it. Thank you so much for tuning into my first video of my fight podcast. And drop a comment and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Was the fight entertaining or boring to you? Does Kambosos have a chance to win in the rematch? Who is next for Devin Haney in the lightweight division? Now, if you can please drop a like on this video and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. And other than that, it's been Steven, and I'm signing off. Peace.